The wrong condo in Kelowna doesn't just cost you money, it costs you options, and most buyers don't realize that until later. Right now, one of the biggest traps I'm seeing in the Kelowna condo market is these micro units. I'm talking 300 to 400 square feet. They look modern, efficient, and they look like a smart way to finally get into the market. And on paper, it feels logical: lower price, easier entry point, and what looks like less risk. But lower price doesn't automatically mean lower risk. When you zoom out and look at 5 to 10 years instead of 5 months, the trade-offs become very, very clear. Now, when you're buying one of these micro units, you're not just buying less space, you're buying less flexibility. Right now, you might be single and it works fine. 2 years from now, you could be in a relationship, could be working from home more often, or maybe you want to get a dog. Where does the desk go? Where do you store stuff? Skis, paddle boards, golf clubs. This is Kelowna, very much a lifestyle-based community. We actually live outdoors and accumulate gear. These tiny units will magnify every compromise you make. If you already feel cramped during your initial showing, that feeling doesn't disappear when you take possession and actually own the property. You really don't adjust to these properties. You just end up tolerating it until you can afford to get out of it. Now let's discuss resale of these units and financing them. So when the market is strong, almost anything sells. When it softens, like it is right now in 2026, micro units often feel it first. Your buyer pool is smaller from the beginning. First-time buyers, they'll outgrow them very quickly. Downsizers usually want a guest room, and investors end up selling them when margins get too thin. So when condo inventory builds, like it is right now in Kelowna, these 300 to 400 square foot studio units are often the ones that sit. And this thin demand creates more volatility. And I saw this recently. A micro unit sold for $189,000 in 2018, and it resold for just over $200,000, and that's 8 years later. So no growth there. That's roughly an $11,000 increase over that 8 years. Of course, that's before any realtor fees, closing costs, and overall inflation. So sure, there may have been some rental income there, but purely from an appreciation standpoint, that is extremely modest growth, especially from what we've seen over the last 8 years. Now let's talk financing these units. Some lenders treat these very, very small units as higher risk because they can be harder to resell. Certain banks may require 20% down instead of a traditional 5% down under $500,000. Before you even write an offer on a micro unit, or any unit, let's be honest, speak with the mortgage specialist, see what the minimum down payment will be needed for the property you're purchasing. It's probably going to be a lot higher on a micro unit than it is on a traditional, 2-bed, 2-bath unit that's around $400,000. So let's break it down just a little bit here. If a unit is selling, let's say it does sell for around $225,000, that is kind of around the going rate right now for these small units. 20% down is $45,000. At 5% down, you'd need $11,250. That's a over $33,000 difference up front. So thin appreciation, stricter financing, and a smaller buyer pool. That's called layered risk when it comes to purchasing these small units. And to add to that, small condo doesn't mean small carrying costs. The square footage shrinks, but the monthly obligations don't shrink proportionately. You're still paying strata fees, although you are paying smaller strata fee compared to a larger unit. It's based on square footage. You are still paying a portion of the insurance, elevator management, reserve fund contributions, in addition to a few other things. In newer downtown towers, those costs can be significant. There are a lot of newer condos downtown that have some great amenities. You're obviously going to be paying for that. And most of those micro units, again, are in amenity heavy buildings. So you got the gyms, the rooftop patio, Co-working spaces, sometimes even a pool, you're paying for all that whether you use it or not. I've seen a 380 square foot unit with monthly costs not dramatically different than an older 800 square foot 2-bedroom unit in a much simpler building, one with less or virtually no amenities. So you really are sacrificing space without saving as much as you think. Do the math first before writing an offer and going ahead with the purchase on these small units if you think a small unit or micro unit is for you. Now let's be honest, these micro units were built for investors. Many of them are designed for rental efficiency first, compact kitchens, minimal storage, and tight studio layouts. They're optimized for yield, not necessarily livability. Buildings dominated by investor-owned studios behave much differently in downturns when margins are tight and listings start to increase. And when listings increase, you don't want to be competing with 5, 10, maybe 20 different identical units in the same building or neighboring buildings. Now, to be fair, micro condos can work for some people. If you're single and you don't plan on being in a relationship, maybe you're a minimalist and genuinely value location over space, it might fit your lifestyle. Make sure you check all those boxes before, again, you go ahead and write an offer just because of the price point. If you're buying strategically as a rental and the numbers truly work and you've exhausted your other options, that's a different situation as well. That is very intentional. The issue isn't that the micro condos are automatically bad. The issue is buying one without really understanding the trade-offs. So if you ask me what I'd buy instead, I'd lean towards an 800 square foot unit or larger, ideally a 2-bedroom, even if it's in a slightly older building. Demand is much deeper, functionality really does sell, and depth of your buyer pool is going to protect you when it does come time to sell. So if you're debating a micro unit right now or any condo in Kelowna, text or call the number on the screen. Love to help you out and get started. Let's make sure you're making a strategic decision, not just chasing the lowest price on the market. And if you want to see which condos in Kelowna I'd actually target in this market, watch this video right here. That's where I break down exactly where I'd put my money instead.